Hello guys, welcome to this series of videos in which we're gonna work with user interfaces in Unity. I'm going to be working with Unity 2020, but basically everything that I'm going to do it's doable in previous versions. So I'm gonna start with an empty scene, and first element that we need to know of user interfaces is the canvas. The canvas is the most important element because anything that we are going to that we want to represent in our user interfaces should be placed within the canvas. For example, the buttons or the images should be placed inside this canvas. In fact, if we don't have a canvas in our scene and we try to create a button, you see that the canvas will be automatically created with the button. And this event system here is the one that controls the clicks and all of that things in the scene. So you want to leave it as it is right now. During this tutorial, I'm going to be changing between 2D and 3D view so I can show you more things in deep. So we're going to start with an empty canvas, so I'm going to delete this button. And the first thing I want to talk about is this render mode in the canvas. So by default, the render mode of a canvas is screen space overlay. This means that anything that we put within the canvas will be shown here in the game view on top of anything that the camera is rendering that moment. So if I change the view of my scene and I'm going to focus on the camera and I'm going to create here, for example, a cube and I'm going to put it in front of the camera. So I set the cube here on the game view. So now if I focus on the canvas and I create a button here, we're going to see that the button is displayed on top of the cube, even though in the scene we see that the button is there and the cube is here. So screen space overlay means that anything is going to be rendered on top of the camera things, even though it's not physically in the scene in front of the camera. Okay, so what if we want to show this button behind the cube, for example? Well, in that case, we have to change the render mode and change to screen space camera. If we do this, if we click screen space camera, there will be a warning here saying that we need a camera to specify a camera. And this is because this render mode, screen space camera, needs a camera to be rendered for the canvas to be rendered. So it's not rendered just in the game view and the game viewport. We need the camera. So I can drag this main camera in the scene to the render camera parameter. And now what you're gonna see is that the canvas was this big. Now has gone and has placed it in front of the camera and its size has been adapted to the camera viewport. In fact, if this camera were had a perspective projection, the canvas will adapt as well. So now the position of this canvas can be controlled by this parameter here, the plane distance. If we move this, you see that the canvas will be near, will go near the camera. And if we move to the right, it will be far from the camera. We go far. I'm gonna change the projection to orthographic because it's easier to understand now. Okay, so now as I said, the canvas, the button, it's positioned behind the cube and the cube now shows over the button. And if I move this cube and I put it behind the canvas, you see that it's not going to be rendered because the button is bigger than the cube, so you don't see it. Well, so when do we want to use screen space overlay, render mode, and screen space camera? Well, screen space overlay gives you a more traditional type of interfaces. For example, in Super Mario, where you have your coins and your lives, you want to use this screen space overlay in that case because it doesn't matter all the rest of the elements on the scene. You just want to focus on well, that the coins and the lives. Generally, you want to use screen space overlay to traditional user interfaces. And you are going to use screen space camera while you want to position some things on the scene over these canvas elements, or you want any kind of interaction between them or connections or whatever, you want to use that. Now, if you notice, with the screen space overlay and with the screen space camera, you see that this rect transform component is blocked. The rect transform is a component that allows us to modify the position or the size of a user interface component. Sorry, a user interface element. And with the screen space overlay and camera, it's blocked. We cannot change the size or the position of a canvas because, as I said, it doesn't matter the size of the position because it's going to be painted on top of anything, or it's going to be painted with a viewport of the camera. So it doesn't matter the size or the position. So what if we want to create a small canvas, for example? Well, in that case, we want to use screen space, random or wall space. In that case, the rect transform component is unlocked and we can change, if we see the canvas, we can change its size, the width and the height. So we create smaller canvases and we can move it on the scene, if you see. So why would we want to create a small canvas? Well, sometimes there are elements on the world of our game that are canvas, even though it doesn't seem to be a canvas. For example, the health bars in Dark Souls, for example, all the enemies have a small health bar on the top of his head, and that health bar is an image or a progress bar with numbers, so it's a canvas. In fact, we can create a health bar right now very quickly. If I delete this button and I make the canvas a bit smaller, and I add an image to this canvas, and I want the image to have the same size as the canvas, I'm going to display anchors more deeply in another video, but right now I'm going to use this. I'm going to select a random sprite here. So now I can change the fill mode of this image to filled, change the fill method. And now we have a kind of health bar. Now with this canvas in random wall space, we can move it and place it wherever we want. So I can move it and assign it to the cube. So make child of the cube. And now these positions will be relative to the cube. So I'll put everything on 0 and I'm gonna place it on top of the cube. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller, like that. So now this is like a health bar. And if I move the cube here, I'm gonna have the canvas moving with the cube. So this is like a character with his health bar. And if I rotate it, it will be rotated with the cube. So this is an example of screen space, random mode, wall space, canvas, and some utilities of it. So this is the end of the first video. If you like it, please subscribe because it will help me a lot.